Voice Out Loud, a podcast series brought to you by Micron Technology. I'm your host, Jim Green. In each episode, we'll discuss emerging technologies in the memory and storage space. We'll also focus on the customer needs that shape evolving modern client devices, as well as next-generation data centers. Today's guest is Chris Moore, Vice President of Marketing at the Mobile Business Unit at Micron Technology. Today, we're going to talk about the mobile data opportunity. So, Chris, welcome.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So, Chris, again, thanks for joining us. And really, the mobile data opportunity is kind of an interesting one. When you look at the last 20 years, the amount of change that the smartphone market has experienced is almost incomprehensible. Can you share with listeners what it's been like to see these types of changes in the time that you've been at Micron and beyond?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. And first, thanks for making me feel old by reminding me how long I've been doing this. So I moved out of the PC client space and into mobile space in 2000 when it was really in its infancy. And one of the things I remember at the time, I vividly remember this, is sitting around with some of my colleagues and trying to understand what the definition of a smartphone was. And at that time, we decided walking out of that meeting that a smartphone was a device that you could talk into, but moreover, it had a camera. You could take pictures and you can do SMS on a 9-digit keypad, which was crazy at the time. It's pretty amazing since, our own internal definition, I think other people would have agreed with it, in 2000, 2001, how much hardware has changed in the smartphone over the last 20 years. If you think about it, right? So obviously you've got your phone and your camera. Now it's got an integrated GPS. You're doing all your video. Your alarm clock is now inside your phone. You've got a music player. A dictaphone used to be a real device that people would talk into. Now you've just got your phone to do it, right? I mean, even a flashlight has been integrated into your phone. So if you think about it purely from a hardware point of view, it's this Swiss Army knife, this jack of all trades. That's, some people joke put Radio Shack out of business because they didn't have any more devices to carry. And then think about all the software, which is really fundamentally changing the way we live our lives, right? The hardware kind of makes it simpler to carry one device around, but the software, now you've got email on your device all the time. You've got a calendar that'll tell you what's going on. You've got a digital assistant to tell you where you need to be in an hour. The digital assistant is integrated with your GPS that's going to tell you which route to go. I mean, it's amazing when you look back over 20 years, all the things that have changed in your life with this smartphone, not even yet getting to what the cloud offers, right? Now you've got the phone that's talking to the cloud. Suddenly I'm sitting at dinner and I realize, I forgot to buy some soap or something. I can go on my phone and I'll have soap at my house in a day or two just because it's attached to the cloud, right? So shopping. And then the stuff that's really transforming is how we are communicating with each other constantly now, right? We're sharing pictures, sharing videos. You've got TikTok, short form video, all of this great stuff that's out there that, it's really enabling this always connected life. With your friends and family, you can be on Facebook, you can have IG where people are talking to each other constantly, how's the party look versus how are the kids, right? I mean, this is just the way we live our lives today. Not to mention work. I'm getting IMs all the time, day and night from all around the world. I'm sure a lot of people listening are the same, right? Again, the phone has created this one-stop device that you can put in your pocket to do almost anything you want and keep you always connected to those around you and what you want to be doing.
So, Chris, I got asked in that meeting back 20 years ago, did you talk about using the smartphone to start your gas grill before you got home to make your barbecue? It is amazing when you think of it.
It really is. Actually, it's funny you say that. I wasn't that smart, but when I was in college, my senior project was using a rotary phone where you would dial the different numbers to turn on your grill or your spa or your heater. So, yes, wow. Actually, I wasn't smart enough to integrate that to a mobile handset, but there were definitely things that were going on at that time.
That's impressive. Now we're going to have another episode to talk about rotary phones so people can remember what those are. But thanks for that. I remember.
So now we're dating each other, Jim.
You've already thrown out about 15 super cool and really innovative use models. And some of the changes that the phone itself has had to undertake in the course of that time to be able to accomplish all these really fantastic things. You talked about accelerometers and GPS. And let's kind of look at some of the more basic fundamental components. How have you seen the evolution in storage and memory and how it's used and what it's used for evolve over this time?
Right. 20 years ago, the main memory in your phone was NOR, right? And of course, NOR is still used today, but not really in your phone. It quickly switched to NAND and to, eventually for the storage side, that NAND morphed into what we call the UFS standard. And that standard has gone from UFS 2.0 to UFS 3.1 till now we're working on UFS 4.0 that's going to be hitting the market pretty soon. So those standards just keep moving, keep getting incrementally faster and faster. The end user doesn't care about the size of the photo or the size of the video. The end user wants that video in high resolution mode on their screen immediately, or they want to be able to take a picture in night mode and not hold their camera for 3 seconds. That's a really interesting one as you move away from the storage side, where obviously the files are getting bigger and bigger, and therefore the interface has to get faster and faster, to the memory side, where we recently were the first to market with LPDDR5X, another incrementally faster memory. And what that allows the end user to do is exactly what I just said. With the older generations of memory, they're too slow, and there's a lot of compute that has to happen when you take a night mode picture. So by moving to these faster interfaces, the user experience gets better. And that's really what it's all about. As the data size increases over time at a linear or sometimes exponential rate, you need to have faster interfaces and you need to have higher capacity products to be able to make the end user experience work seamlessly. Again, the end user doesn't want to wait 5-10 seconds for that video to upload.
It's interesting, just when you mentioned it, just now occurred to me, when was the last time I thought about what the file size of something was?
Right.
I mean, that used to be a thing. You used to worry about this. Hey, do I want to grab this now or do I want to download it before I go somewhere? And gosh, I hadn't even contextualized that. So thanks. You mentioned again how people are using and what the devices are now capable of doing. One of the kind of up and coming innovations here is on the user interface side, on the display. And things like foldable displays are actually becoming really, really compelling. What frontiers is this going to unlock for the mobile experience?
Most of the time when your phone is progressing, we get higher capacity products, maybe pictures get better, higher resolution. But I think the foldable display could really revolutionize the way you use your phone. From an incremental point of view, I think obviously gaming with a bigger display gets easier to game. You can see more of the screen. It's more like what you're going to be doing at home, carrying it with you. So that one's pretty clear. Another one that's pretty clear that, again, is probably more incremental is video playback, where you're going to, again, have a bigger screen. It's going to be more enjoyable to watch that video if you're on a train or on a plane. Maybe more than one person can watch a phone at the same time, and you won't be having to put your head on somebody's shoulder, sitting next to them because the screens will be getting larger. But beyond that, I think the really interesting thing is because the form factor gets larger, it allows the phone to be more like a compute device. And what I mean by that is with a larger screen, you can have more than one window open at a time. Today, most of the time when you're using your handset, you've got one window open and then you got to either press a button to switch to a different application or flip up or whatever UI, and whether you're using an iOS device or an Android device you're used to. But you don't actually have both screens open at the same time. And that's where I think things get really interesting, where maybe you have a video and a picture and you can actually just cut and paste from that picture and drag and drop it on top of that video and edit in real time. Much more like what you're used to doing on a PC. I know I'm sitting here at my desk and I've got 2 screens in front of me on my PC. So I can have 16 different apps open and start swinging between them. And just the way the brain works, it's much easier visually if you have both items in front of you at the same time. And so I think, again, with that, the idea of creating video content, editing it on the fly, and then posting it, things like TikTok are just going to get even more interesting as people are able to use these new screens to actually get more customized video and make it more interesting and easier to use overall.
Do you think that's going to further feed kind of the explosion of the user-generated content domain there?
I don't think anything's going to slow that down. I'm one of those, right? I'm shocked at myself, but I went from, taking pictures and sending them over MMS to now I'm taking videos of my kids playing sports, editing them and sending them up to the cloud or sending them to my family and friends in other ways. And I'm just, an old dad. What kids are going to be doing, what the influencers are out there doing, content creators who do this for a living. Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's just going to continue to explode. And again, 5G coupled with the handset enables that, right? It enables, this higher bandwidth enables you to upload faster as well as download faster. And as you said, Jim, my job is to go make sure that everybody's got enough storage and memory on their phone so that all of that is seamless and they don't even think about it. It just happens.
Yeah, it almost seems counterintuitive that the robustness of the connection and the incredible capacities and capabilities are available in the cloud, yet you still need this super robust endpoint because you just need to have it local and accessible and available for when you want to do that video editing real time and send it real time. There's no substitute for real time.
An edge device, the amount of compute in it, the ability to compute is growing and growing, right? There's more and more GPUs and AI on your phone than ever before. Mm-hmm. that is going to drive more need for memory and storage, 100%. One of the things that's really exciting about this job is looking and thinking about, what's coming down 3 years, 5 years from now, and then how much memory and storage and how fast does it have to be, and what are those end user experiences going to be like, and how can we go enable the technology to get there? It's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So, the phones are amazing, but they're a compilation of hundreds of parts from probably dozens and dozens of providers. And you mentioned the phones are getting a little bit bigger, but the capacities and capabilities are exponentially higher. How do you work with OEMs and other component vendors to be able to make these things come together so you can put that jack of all trades, that Swiss Army knife of compelling capabilities into such a small package with such incredible power capabilities?
That is a great question, Jim. We spend a lot of time working with the Qualcomms of the world, the MediaTeks of the world, of course, the brands that you're aware of, the Samsungs, the Vivos, Oppos, Xiaomis of the world. We spend a ton of time with them. The key is that we are two extremely important components in that system. Memory and storage, right? Memory is needed for your brain to work. It's needed for a CPU to work. You've got to store that data somewhere. Mm-hmm. And storage is needed to actually hold the data. So they take us really, really seriously as well. And what's nice is, we can walk into a Qualcomm or a MediaTek and we can say, what are your use models coming 3 years down? And of course, they're going to be, a little careful about what they share with us, but they know they need to share with us so that they're going to be successful in the future. And we've, through our own innovation and our own product leadership, I mentioned a little earlier today, we were first to market on LP5X. Well, we were first to market on what's called a UMCP5. We were first to market with 176-layer NAND. We've got a string of first to markets over the last 3 or 4 years that they're taking us very seriously, and they want to know what's coming, and then they want to be able to create the best user experience based on that. So we have great relationships with the hardware folks as well as with Google Android. We talk to Google Android all the time. What are they seeing coming? What usage models are they moving to? And then how can we work with them? Again, it's all about the end user. It's all about how can we create the experience that the end user wants? I'm a big believer in kind of seamless revolution or evolution where things just get better and better and better over time. And there's not this big giant flash of light that says, oh, wow, this thing is now so much better. It just kind of slowly creeps better. And you don't even necessarily notice all of the hardware and software changes that we open this discussion about. In order for that to work, we have to all, as an entire industry and ecosystem, work together. And we spend an inordinate amount of time on that. And it's great working at Micron where people want to work with us because they see us as technology and product leaders.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you very much. We're out of time for today, but this discussion's been super helpful because you've taken us on a real journey from, the early days to what's coming next and that focus on the user experiences that we're all trying to resolve to make that market evolve in the way you mentioned. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Again, it's nice to step away from the normal job to do something different. So really appreciate it.
Great. And thanks to our audience. I encourage you to check out some of the new technologies and capabilities that Chris mentioned at www.micron.com/mobile. And certainly you can learn more about Micron at micron.com/careers and engage with Micron technology on LinkedIn and in the Twitter sphere. Thanks for joining. Thank you to our audience for joining. Please listen in again on the next episode of Chips Out Loud.